DARKMAUS, a little-known indie game inspired by the Goliath that is Dark Souls. I remember playing this around the time when it came out. I played it a bit, had my fun, beat it once, and called it a day. Looking at it now, this game is a bit of an oddity. Developed by a single person who started it as a passion project due to his love of the Dark Souls series, DARKMAUS came out back in the heyday of Steam Greenlight. Y'all remember Greenlight? God, what an absolute travesty that was. But unlike the vast majority of games on that garbage heap, DARKMAUS appeared actually pretty polished, almost as if some actual care went into it. The game was successfully greenlit and released on Steam around January of 2016, where, according to Steam histories, it was never overly popular, only reaching about 93 concurrent players at the height of its popularity. And nowadays, it has a maximum player count of about 2. Blessings upon you, unknown players. You're doing the Lord's work. Needless to say, I don't think this game ever became anything more than the labor of love that it was. The homepage for the game is sparse, and with a little digging, it appears the developer has moved on to working on lighting systems that are part of the Unreal Engine 5. Good for him. You love to see it. So, when Kunzio, one of my patrons, asked for a review of this game as his monthly reward, I figured we might as well dive back in, see what I might have missed all those years ago, and give this little indie game a proper send-off. Shall we? So, right from the start, this game is letting us know exactly what we're getting into. First off, the HUD. Very clearly Dark Souls inspired, so veterans of the series and any games inspired by it are instantly familiar with what everything around the screen means. You've got your health bar, equipment loadout, can't seem to find my stamina bar, but I'm sure, oh, there it is, it's below my mouse. Not sure what all that is up there below my health, but I'm sure we'll figure it out. I think I could see why the developer went into video game lighting engines. The entire game implements a pretty unique style of fog of war as you play, only showing you what your character can see in their point of view, despite the game being a top-down RPG. We aren't given a cutscene or any real explanation of what's going on. All we know is that we are a mouse, we have weapons and armor, and judging by the tone I'm getting from the bleak landscape and eerie soundtrack, the world is in a bad way. Pressing all the buttons, we don't find out any more about the world around us, but we do find hints as to what we'll be getting into. We've got some item descriptions, your standard thoroughfare of RPG elements, an ability list, and a map. Seems like all the basics are in order. Let's go figure out what we're doing here. Oh, okay. Well, that was easy. Combat seems pretty basic. We're gonna have to get used to angling our hits properly, but we've got the standard lock-on, blocks, and light and heavy attacks. I like how the beach actually shows my paw prints. That's a nice little detail. Also, real quick, before things get too serious, look at his feet. Look at his widow feet! Ah, there's the bonfire I was expecting. Looks like it follows the same logic as Souls as well, what with the respawning of enemies every time you sit down and all. The game does a pretty good job of slowly introducing concepts to you as well. Looks like the number below my health bar is Marrow, aka Souls, and the number next to that is how many times I can level up with my current stock. Simple enough. Sitting at a bonfire gives you the opportunity to do said level up and play around with the different stats, and the game even tells you what difference each level will make before asking if you're ready to accept your choices. Wait, did that say pyromancy? Shit. Add another game to the firebomb only list. Look at the little dance he does! Continuing on, the game is definitely utilizing its unique point of view and lighting effects to its advantage. Fighting underneath these trees against these spiders makes me feel that sense of fear that I'm not getting the whole picture, and that something's gonna pop around a corner, despite the fact that I can see almost the entire arena. Also compounding that fear, it looks like my torch has a timer. And judging by what the game looks like when you turn off said torch, yep, gonna have to keep an eye on that one. Thankfully, the torch replenishes every time you reach a bonfire. But once again, the game is using the lighting to enhance the tone and mechanics. Interesting stuff. Pushing forward, I find my first weapon. Itachi? Alright then. Much like Dark Souls, each weapon has its own movesets. Some do wide sweeping attacks, some do short pokes, and so on. Each of these movesets will come in handy against different types of enemies, so it's in your best interest to be prepared for anything, especially when the game starts to mix and match enemy types. Oh, hello there. Looks like we have our first NPC. Anna here is looking for food for her village, and needs help getting back. She also casually mentioned her sanity, further implicating that the world we found ourselves in is not doing well, though not in so many words. Gotta say, I'm enjoying the drip feed of lore so far. I'm not overwhelmed by text, but I'm still intrigued and want to know more. The amount of information on the screen at any point isn't overpowering, and because of that, I can focus on the gameplay and the mechanics, both of which are interesting and grab my attention. We'll see if that holds up as we get deeper into the game, but so far I'm really impressed by the game's ability to balance the way the player interacts with its world. Also, can I say how much I appreciate the fact that Anna asks if we can escort her? Escort quests are literally the worst, and part of what makes them the worst is the fact that they are foisted upon the player. It's a minor thing, but the fact that I could tell Anna to kick rocks and continue on my way is something I appreciate. That said, let's take her along for the ride. And what a ride it is. Looks like the game is starting to take the training wheels off. Look how many enemies there are on screen. Thankfully, Anna here isn't helpless, and actually brings a ranged element to the combat. If I can tank hard enough, I think she can actually... That one's on me. It should be noted that Anna's health is permanent. If she takes damage, that damage stays between respawns. You can offer her some of your rare healing items, which will heal her quite a bit, but considering this game doesn't give you any healing items back for free, you may want to hold on to those unless she really needs them. Let's go the other way. Thankfully, the map does a good job of indicating where I haven't been, and after backtracking a bit to an area I missed, we find this twisted figurine. This object right here is going to change how we play the game quite a bit. Here, let me give an example. Dark Souls difficulty spikes are like brick walls. You progress through the game until you come across one, and then you have two options. You can either A, bang your head against it repeatedly until either you or the wall break, or B, realize that you can try something else, like walking around it or climbing over it. In this metaphor, A represents the idea of sticking to your original playstyle and forcing your way through a challenge, while B represents changing your loadout, trying new weapons, or possibly even avoiding a challenge entirely. DARKMAUS here offers a third solution. Break down the brick wall with sheer numbers. When you have one of these twisted figurines, every time you die, a ghost appears at the bonfire with you. This is a ghost of you. It has your stats and your equipment, and will attempt to go back to the place where you last died. You can't control it, and it does have health, so it won't last forever. But if you intended to return to where you died and retrieve your marrow, the ghost will act as additional support in that endeavor. I've never seen a mechanic like this. What a neat way to imitate summoning co-op partners. Later in the game, you can actually find more figurines, as indicated by the wording on the item, which means that should you come across a difficult section of the game, it is now a legitimate strategy to throw yourself into the blender a few times, and then bring out the squad. Brings a whole new meaning to the phrase corpse run. Anyway, let's press on. Holy hell, this game ramped up quick. The game definitely punishes you for getting ahead of yourself, as I quickly learned. Ooh, new area. This one is some sort of plane. The darkness and the claustrophobia are gone, but why do I feel even more anxious? Ah, that's why. Because there's bad times out there! Oh, good, there's a bird boss out here too. And she brought the flock! I love how this game takes the natural fear and prey-like nature of mice and makes you live out that terror. Behave like a mouse? Get rewarded. Behave like a fearless player? Get swatted back to the nearest bonfire, my guy. Much like a real mouse, if you follow the sides of the map, you'll be rewarded with sweet treats and treasures, as well as a sense of safety. Things can't attack you from every angle if you've got a wall on at least one side. Real mice do this too, by the by. You know those adorable whiskers? They use those to help them scope out their surroundings. Mice have terrible eyesight, but those whiskers can actually sense vibrations and air pressure changes, which is why they always run along the walls. It gives them a constant feedback loop of information and keeps them safer than usual. What? I used to have mice in a previous house of mine. I like to be informed. This also means that the walls are the best place to set up traps for mice, but hopefully the developer didn't know that little tidbit. After exploring a good chunk of the plains, we eventually stumble upon Anna's village, and it's here that we finally get a lore dump. Up until now, we've had very little to go on. We know the world is in a bad way, we know that enemies are everywhere, and we know that Anna is worried about her sanity. Here, though, she finally feels safe enough to reveal what's going on. Here's the gist. These few remaining mice are the refugees of a great city in the east. They became refugees when, in the middle of a war, one of their allies refused to come to their aid, and their city was besieged. Escaping the war, the refugees created this village and have been living here ever since. Now, however, a new threat looms. A necromancer, Zerastar, has appeared with marrow-seeking hunters. Z-Man has been attacking the surrounding area, including the refugees, and repeatedly raises the dead to feed his hunters, causing the bodies he raises to become insane husks. The refugee king has left on a quest to return with aid from their old allies, but hasn't returned or been seen since. One of the village's greater warriors went off in search of him as well, but he too has not returned. Which leaves Anna. Technically a princess, she plans to leave in search of her father, the king, though she is wounded and worries about leaving the few remaining mice in the village undefended. And it's here in this story that we are offered a choice. We can assist the village, taking Anna's place in search of her father, or we can once again tell Anna to solve her own problems. Maybe I'm just used to the contrary, but I love when a game offers you the main quest, rather than simply forcing the title of Chosen One upon you and pushing you on your way. Also, because it bears noting, this is how you lore dump. None of that information was overwhelming to the player. As I'm sure you noticed, the whole story so far was easily summarized in about 8 or 9 sentences, and I wasn't being overwhelmed by fantasy names or phrases either. Also, the timing of this lore dump is fantastic. At this point, I've been playing the game for about an hour now, which means that if I've made it this far, I'm probably invested and curious about the world around me. This is much preferred to being beat over the head by the game's lore Bible 2 minutes in, before I've had a chance to even consider whether or not I care. Needless to say, I accept. Anna gives me a bow for my assistance, nice, that'll be helpful, and gives me some basic directions of where I should probably start looking. After searching through the village for a few last goodies, no playing ball in the house! I head back out into the world, alone. I make sure to check every corner and side path I find, because exploration is definitely encouraged in this game. Checking the hidden areas will net you all sorts of weapons and equipment, and you'll want these, as the game is going to get progressively harder as we go. There's also a simple upgrade system we can engage in. It's not overly complicated, just jam increasing amounts of shards into a weapon you enjoy, and it'll improve its stats. Easy enough. After exploring the wastelands for a bit, I eventually make my way to the garrison that Anna told me about. I'm impressed by how different each area feels, especially considering the game only has about 3 or 4 colors to work with. The shapes of the walls and the way the lighting works in each area really helps emphasize the feel of each new location. What the? Does this game have invasion mechanics? Oh no, it's just an AI. Still, that definitely spooked me, and holy shit are the invaders hard. They feel like real players, and less like pre-programmed obstacles than the rest of the enemies I've encountered. I am consistently impressed with this indie dev's abilities. Such a shame he didn't go on to make other games. He just, went on to go help develop an engine that can make infinite games. I warn you now, though, the invaders, or hunters, I guess, are tough. And not only that, but losing to them results in them stealing your marrow and a chunk of your health bar. You'll slowly get that health bar back as you defeat other enemies, but that marrow is just plain gone. So panic is absolutely warranted if you ever get this message on your screen. God, look at those fog effects. It's so subtle, and yet such a nice touch. We need more game developers who care this much. At this point, the enemies have definitely stepped up their game. Rushing in and swinging a big sword doesn't work as well as it did on the unarmed enemies, and usually gets you killed pretty quick. Thankfully, the skills that are offered to you as you level up are actually pretty useful. Not only can you sometimes deflect arrows back to great effect, but now you can shield bash an overprotective enemy to open up their defense, or just dash in and get a surprise swipe before they know what hit them. I also enjoy the fact that if you don't like a skill that you picked, you can always swap it out for another one at no cost. This might be a little overpowered, to be honest, but I do appreciate that in the earlier game, you're not going to be limited and have to start over due to a bad call. Lots of fast enemies, get the rush attack. Lots of shield enemies now, just take that rush attack off and apply the shield bash, and so on. It's an interesting game of give and take, enhancing your character in one particular way at the cost of losing previously used skills. I didn't find myself using this too often though. By the time I needed a particular skill to overcome an enemy, I had already earned enough skill points to have the skills I needed. That said, this is great news for anyone who doesn't search every nook and cranny or doesn't want to grind out a few levels. Man, this fortress reminds me of Dark Souls a lot right now. Every room has me walking in with a shield raised, and for good reason. These hard-angled corners are great at hiding enemies and limiting your view. You've really got to keep your awareness up to avoid both physical and mental traps while searching. Eventually, I come to one of the first big bosses of the game. The first thing I notice is that ghosts aren't allowed past the fog wall. Well, there goes that strategy. The second thing I notice is, holy hell, this guy hits like a truck. You can only get in about 1 or 2 mistakes before they knock your poor mouse body to the floor. That said, the game has generously placed a bonfire 1 room away from the boss arena, and you don't even have to struggle through the adjacent room if you don't want to. Running through is a perfectly viable strategy. While I appreciate that the game shows me the boss's stamina, it kind of feels like a moot point. I'm sure if I really wanted to, I could strategize around attacking when he runs out of energy, but he has so much of it and it recharges so fast that I don't think it would really be worth it. Different strokes for different folks. Eventually, I figure out a strategy that works for me. Something odd I noticed, the boss only dropped a key. I didn't get any marrow from him. In fact, the marrow one would expect to drop from defeating the boss is actually located all around the arena. So you could go out of your way to pick it all up before defeating him, which in turn could lead to him killing you and you losing all of it if you're not careful. I don't think I like this decision very much. It feels a bit like a trap to uninformed players, and it's not like you could run in, grab it all, and run out again. The game does give me a skill point upon defeating him though, so that part feels right at least. With new key in hand, I finish exploring the map until I reach the next crossroads where Oh, that's a cat. Man, I love the tension I feel just at the thought of approaching it. Oh, that doesn't help. Oh, you're full. You're full. That's your reassurance?
No, you can trust me. I already murdered 2 people today. I would never murder a third. Heavens no.
The key I need to progress is in a poison swamp? Oh yeah, that's not suspicious at all. Well, we've got nothing else to go on, so let's go check that out, I suppose. Just want to poke you so bad! Oh, wow, this is full on a poison swamp. DARKMAUS actually takes a slightly different approach to poison damage. Rather than a constant tick of damage, it's more of a don't touch the lava kind of situation. Damage when you stand in it, no damage when you don't. This mechanic does change the way I'm engaging with the enemies in the area, so that's pretty cool. I feel the need to push enemies into the poison pools as far as I can before killing them, to help keep the amount of poison spread to a minimum. You can't avoid it all, though. Not if you want to explore and find all the goodies. Oh, good, another boss. Where is it? Where is it? Oh god, there he is! You know, I think I've neglected to mention it up to this point, but there are multiple different types of damage you can inflict on enemies. You've got your usual trifecta, pierce, blunt, and slashing. But you can definitely tell when you're not using the right damage type when it comes to some of the harder bosses. My usual strategy of big sword, big damage isn't really working here. I appreciate that, actually. Having a single weapon that can be used to brute force your way through the game is kind of boring, and leads to a single meta used for every situation. Looking at you, Golden Jaws. What the? An Australian heirloom? This isn't a key? Hey, wait a minute, that cat was from a that fucking cat lied to me! You! What game are you playing at? Okay, fine, but I'm still pretty upset about this. How can I trust these new directions are accurate? Oh, okay, yep, prison, got it, okay, I'll just be going now. The prison, once I find it, is no joke. Remember Sen's Fortress? Imagine that, but combined with Anne Orlando archers. That's the level of difficulty that we're dealing with here. That's not to imply that it isn't fair, though. You can use multiple strategies to try to progress through the prison, and at this point in the game you should have all the skills you need to push through. I just hope this is the final area, because if this gets any harder, I'm in for a world of hurt. I will say, I appreciate the fact that the traps strewn about the prison work on the enemies as well. Push a mouse into spikes, it hurts them. Lure enemies into the line of fire, and the ballista bolt will do significant damage to the ranks. And fire holds no allegiance to any mouse. It takes a while, this place feels huge, but eventually I make my way to the— oh, come on! Okay, finally. What an absolute ordeal. There was an NPC in one of the prison cells I passed by earlier. I'm pretty sure that was the warrior that Anna's people sent off in search of the king, and I seem to remember saving him the first time I played. I think he actually gifts you his shield, or at the very least acts as an ally like Anna did. That probably would have helped, but I kinda did a bad job of searching the prison because I never found his key. Ah well, mission for future playthroughs, I guess. Oh god, what fresh hell is this? New colors are never good. Oh good, a gauntlet of hunter mice. I think we're finally in the endgame. This gauntlet is a rough time, but again, it doesn't feel overly unfair. The game never pits me against more than 2 hunters in a single room, unless you make the foolish mistake of trying to sprint past everyone. I like the fact that the game is offering me a choice of each set of rooms I encounter. Left or right, pick your poison. Much like the Darkroot Garden in Dark Souls, these enemies all work in tandem with one another, essentially showing off builds that you could have used throughout your playthrough. Makes me kinda want to play through again if I'm being honest. Some of these builds are pretty powerful, and I'm kind of upset I didn't think of them. Alright, made it through. Now we just corrupted Lord Victor. Isn't that the mouse I— Nope! Not a mouse! Not a mouse! This boss was rough. It feels like he has unlimited stamina, and now that I look back at the footage, it appears that's actually true. He just keeps swinging away at you until he either hits you or you hit him. I tried a few different strategies, and eventually found something that worked, but this one was definitely a bit rougher than I'd have liked. Oh hey, that's more like it. Oh, okay, that wasn't exactly seamless. But I guess they were just worried about her getting caught on the enemies in the previous room, which is valid because I definitely did not clear them out. I still can't get over how the AI in this game behaves though. Anna steps between you both and refuses to let you close to him, worried you'll continue the attack. I mean seriously, AAA games don't even get this right sometimes. God, I love the indie scene. In any case, Anna asks that we confront Zerastar and bring peace to the land. She also gives us an amulet that protects me from losing my marrow to hunters, so long as she remains alive. Okay, time out. You just implied 2 things with that single statement, and I did not like either of them. Why are you worried about dying? And why is the possibility of hunters stealing my marrow suddenly being emphasized? Anna? Anna? Alright, home stretch. The game has its last bit of fun with the lighting system, sending us through a simple labyrinth filled with goodies, and then we find him.
Zerastar, ancient necromancer and last of the Elder Circle.
This guy exudes intimidation like the fog that surrounds him. I really like the build-up that's led to this point. I feel like there's actual tension between me and him. Z-Star here congratulates us on making it this far, and then offers us a choice.
Serve or die.
Obviously I have no interest in Oh, that wasn't just dialogue, he's actually offering. Huh, that puts a bit more weight into the decision. Well, I've already come this far as the hero, no reason to change that up now. That said though, this choice has me wondering how different of a playthrough it would have been had I chose the opposite quest options throughout the game. Definitely fuels my desire to do a second playthrough. But that's for a future Lemon to worry about. Have at ye! Zerastar himself really isn't that bad. He uses a lot of pyromancy, but considering I've been using that a bit throughout the run, I already know how it works and can avoid it pretty easily. Wait, what are you doing? Ah, shit, invaders! He's summoning invaders! Well, guess that explains why Anna gave me this amulet. Thank God, can you imagine trying to beat this fight over and over again with lowered health? It takes a few tries. Those invaders are no joke. But eventually, we take down Zerastar and end his reign of terror. Oh, that's it? Well, that's a bit anticlimactic. Ah well, can't win them all. I guess this is nice information to know though. I missed a weapon somewhere along the line apparently, and some items that might have been fun to play with. I could see this screen being great for speedrunners and completionists. Shame the game never took off enough to warrant it. And that's DARKMAUS. Obviously I left a lot of exploration out of the footage, and there's still the anti-hero playthrough and ending to see as well. But I'll leave that to you all to find for yourselves. Overall, I really enjoyed this game. It's not super lengthy or extravagant, but DARKMAUS knows that about itself and never overreaches. It stays within its capabilities, aiming to do a few things very well instead of trying to do everything passively. It also feels very respectful of my time, opting to keep its system simple and never trying to prolong the experience through cheap mechanics. And I respect the hell out of that. If you're looking for an interesting Souls-like with solid mechanics and a great art style, look no further. It's not a long game, but I can see myself trying a couple playthroughs, and considering it's only $10 at maximum price, you could do far worse. Give it a go if you're feeling different. Now if you'll excuse me, there's a cat that owes me an apology. Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. Ah! Wait! Stop! Not the eyes! Not the eyes! Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you again to Kunzio for sponsoring this review. This game was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I gave it another run all these years later. And, as always, a big thank you to all of my patrons. Without your help, this channel wouldn't be what it is today. You have my sincere thanks. If you haven't already, feel free to like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that jazz. And don't forget to check out all the other social networking nonsense we have going on in the description down below. Other than that, that's all I've got. Thank you all for watching. Stay safe out there, never trust an Australian cat, and I'll see you all again soon.